Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, however you celebrate the season. And welcome to Hickory Ridge Concerts Virtual. I'm your host, Chris Valillo, and we have a spectacular show in line for you this evening to wind up our 2021 season. There's also going to be some changes I'll need to tell you about here in a couple of minutes as well. But right now, let's just play a little bit of music. Now, our guest tonight is from Michigan, Joel Mabus, and I'll tell you more about him in just a minute. But to open up the show, I'd like to do one of my very favorite Christmas carols of all time. I've done it before, but it is still perhaps the most beautiful song I've ever heard. In the Bleak Midwinter. In the bleak midwinter, frosty winds made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snowy snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. Our God, heaven cannot hold him, nor the earth sustain. Heaven and earth shall fall away when he comes to reign. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place suffice. The Lord God Almighty, Jesus Christ. Enough for him whom cherubim worship night and day. A breast full of milk and a manger full of hay. Enough for him whom angels fall down before. The ox and ass and camel who adore. What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. What can I give? Give my heart. Give my heart. Isn't that a gorgeous melody? Interestingly enough, it's a song I hadn't really heard until about 5 or 6 years ago. Now, we always have a tradition of pie as a dessert, but tonight we're breaking that tradition and going with Christmas cookies. And I have raspberry bars. I'll tell you more about them a little bit later on, and we'll break those out when the time comes. Now, I do have some housekeeping details to share with you here tonight. As you know, we've been doing Hickory Ridge Concerts live stream, well, pretty much since COVID hit. And we've managed to continue to share music and keep the community of musicians and audience together. Unfortunately, we have not managed to sustain ourselves through all of this. And while I have written a couple of grants, we've reached a point where I need to reimagine this series. So what I want to do, first of all, let me tell you, through the generous donations of a number of folks at our last concert, we've got enough money where I can sort of slow things down and still have a nest egg to recreate the series live. In the meantime, I will be able to do a few shows occasionally, but not sustain it on a monthly basis simply because we continue to lose money. But what I want to do is take off certainly January, and we'll see where we go from there, and start to look at ways to do this in a way that is sustainable. So you can help by liking Hickory Ridge Concerts Facebook page or Chris Villolo's YouTube channel, and I will keep you informed of things as we move forward. I'm looking at all different sorts of options, perhaps changing the day of the week, perhaps changing the format of the show. But it will continue. It's just going to take a little rest while we rework that. Those of you that would like to share your opinions, by all means, please email me with thoughts on what you'd like to see and how you'd like to see it done. I'll put my email up in the chat here in a little bit. Now, what else do we need to do about? We want to thank our sponsors because while we have had a hard time keeping this going forward, we were sustained through a grant through Two Rivers Arts Council, and they have been very generous to support this show. We thank them very, very much. Okay, let's move on to our headline performer tonight. Joel Mabus is one of the Midwest's great treasures. He lives outside of Kalamazoo, Michigan these days. And as he has said many times, he is hopelessly Midwestern. He is an amazing musician on fingerstyle, flat-picked, original songs, old-time music, and multiple instruments, no less. But tonight, he's just going to come to us on guitar. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Joel Mabus. Hey, Joel, how you doing?
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. You know, I know we've both been talking a little bit, but this is the one I've really been looking forward to.
You know, I don't have much to look forward to if it isn't on my computer screen.
Well, that's pretty much the state of the situation right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, when it comes to people covering all these different bases of music, you know, songwriting, traditional music, different instruments. I mean, you've led the pack for as long as I can remember. And one of the things that fascinates me is that combination of old time and original material. What inspired you to go in that direction?
Well, you know, it's been going on in this world for a long time. I'm going to do a few songs tonight that follow that thing, where you take a something that was, as people have been singing for hundreds of years, and you make it your own a little bit. And you know, Woody Guthrie did that. Pete Seeger certainly did it. So it's been around a while in folk music, and it even happens when you don't know it happens. You know, people will learn Barbary Allen just the way Grandpa sang it or Grandma sang it, and they'll sing it, and they can't help but forget part of it and make up something different here and there. And then their grandkids learn it just a little more different. Before you know it, you have 100 versions of the song. And sometimes I will be more purposeful than that. And I'll say, you know, I like the theme of this song. Why don't I write my own song around the theme of that? And I borrow a musical phrase and then build a melody around just a phrase. So it's been my inspiration, you know. But the classical composers have been doing that forever too, of taking just a little theme and expanding it into a whole symphony. I don't do that.
Yeah. And, I really believe that any artist should try and interpret a song that they're going to do through their own experience, add their own twist to it. I am guilty as charged for rearranging all sorts of stuff. But I think that also moves the music forward, just like you're saying. It's part of that folk tradition and keeping the music alive.
Yeah. Well, you got to be true to yourself, and you also got to be true to the music, and that's a balance.
Yeah.
And that's where I've been all my career, really.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, with that in mind, you and I will talk a little bit after we hear some music, but let's get to that.
Okay.
Friends, once again, Joel Mabus.
Gotta unplug my earphones here, so it's just me all alone here in my office. We had a little snow today up here in Michigan, so it looks beginning to look a lot like Christmas, as they say. Here's a song I wrote back about 25 years ago or so, and back in the 1990s, and I still sing it every year, if they'll let me. The thing about Christmas is everything changes. Everything's just a little different. The theaters are doing Dickens, the dance club's doing the Nutcracker, and, well, you get it. Oh, the town is changing their colors. Everything is red and green. And Silver Bells is on the hit parade, moving up the charts since Halloween. And old St. Nick is just a job at the mall, where they paint all the evergreen white. It's what they always do, except for me and you. Honey, let's do Christmas right. Let's keep Christmas simple, with an old-fashioned Christmas tree. Put one little box under there for you, one little box for me. And then we'll string the popcorn, and we'll all sing Silent Night. Oh, let's keep Christmas simple. Honey, let's keep Christmas right. Simple, man. And all the mistletoe is plastic, just as phony as Santa's beard. And that low-fat eggnog substitute is starting to taste just a little weird. And when the dogs start barking jingle bells, hold me back, might bite. Hey, girls and boys, hold down that noise, and let's do Christmas right. Let's keep Christmas simple, that's my only Christmas wish. Come on to my house on Christmas Eve, and I'll fix your favorite dish. And then we'll string the candles, light them up and sing Oh Holy Night. Let's keep Christmas simple, oh honey, let's keep Christmas right. Throw a log on a fire, hang up a sock, sing Christmas carols up and down the block. No crowds at the mall to fight. Let's keep Christmas right. Just like Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed, Zuzu's Petals is all we need. Oh, it's a wonderful movie, in glorious black and white. Let's do Christmas right. Just like Ebenezer Scrooge and Old Man Grinch. Once you turn your head around, Christmas is a cinch. Yeah, more folks ought to try it. Let's do Christmas right. Oh, you read Matthew and I'll read Luke. I'll tell the shepherds, you bring the loot. Yeah, those wise guys saw the light. Let's do Christmas right. So turn off the TV, power down the phone. Hey, leave that Facebook page alone. Oh, once let's have a silent night. Let's do Christmas right. Let's do Christmas right. Yeah, there's a philosophy to live by. Keep it simple, do it right. You know, I've been celebrating Christmas with song all my life, but more pointedly these past 20, 25 years or so. And I've learned there's one song that must be included. There's hundreds of these Christmas carols, hymns, Christmas-themed songs, but there's one song that must be included, and it doesn't mention Christmas at all. But you will leave them disappointed if you don't do this one. Open sleigh, o'er the field you go, dancing all the way, bells on bobtail ring, yeah, making spirits bright. What fun it is, ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to be one horse open sleigh. Here we go. Found doing programs, little kids, you got to play jingle bells, and folks in the nursing home, we sometimes, my wife and I will go and lead some singing on Christmas Eve if we can, and they wake up when you sing jingle bells. Oh yeah, that's the one that says Christmas to everybody. But you know, caroling is a wonderful thing to do if most people don't do it anymore. I'm talking about actual caroling where you, put on your coat and your scarf and you take a bunch of people and you walk down the street and sing at people's doors. I mean, there are some neighborhoods in Michigan where, that's not advised. They love their guns in Michigan, and you might be knocking on the wrong door sometimes. But caroling, when you're my age anyway, presents a few difficulties. Because everybody in the group has to sing all the words, right? And the thing about these songs is you sing them. If you're not some kind of professional, you will sing these songs one day, maybe 2 days out of an entire year. And maybe if you're much more musical, you might sing them for 1 week out of 52 or 1 month out of 12. But the rest of the time, they're not on the brain. And it's what I call the Wenceslas Factor. The Wenceslas Factor. Everybody says, oh, I love good King Wenceslas. Let's say it. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen to something, crisp even. Fuel. Gathering winter fuel. And the second verse is forget about it. That's Wenceslas. So what do? You get a book and you print all the words out to all the songs. Great. Until you're actually maybe outside and you're in the dark, which is what happens at 5 o'clock these days. And you can't see because it's dark. You can take a flashlight, and maybe people invite you into the house to sing your carols, and you're wearing your glasses, and you've been outside, and you're in the warm house, and they fog up, and you can't read. So I have the solution. I've discovered this some years ago, and I've been spreading the joy ever since. What you do is you memorize one verse of one song, the words to one verse of one song. Because the tunes aren't a problem. You remember the tunes. You hear them every day when you go shopping, right? But the words to one verse of one song. And I would suggest, O Little Town of Bethlehem. And of course, you can sing that if you've memorized. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. Beautiful. Then you move on to another song. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. It fits like a glove, doesn't it? And you can just keep going. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. It's amazing. It just works. It passes the Wenceslas test. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. It gets a little spooky after a while how well this works, Even when you got a weird one, one of the weird ones that you say, that can't work there. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and the fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. You say, well, even when you got a song that you think it can't fit this tune, it just can't fit this tune, give it a try. You might be surprised. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by, and yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. It's a Christmas miracle. That's all I can say. It's a Christmas miracle. So try that method of caroling sometime. The fact is, after 45 years of being a professional entertainer, I can tell you 90% of the people never hear the words. They say, what was that tune that you had strumming up there? So I like that one. What was that called? I didn't remember. And they don't hear the words. They hear the music. They get the whole gist of the... Anyway, so one tune does it all. One lyric does it all. Now, just like Jingle Bells, there's a lot of these Christmas songs that we only play at Christmas now, but they originally had nothing to do with Christmas. Sometimes Jingle Bells had to do with winter. This one has nothing to do with winter either. It was the title song from a play that was on an operetta that was on Broadway in 1903 called Babes in Toyland. And this is Toyland. I'll just play it for you on the guitar. Here's the verse. Toyland, Toyland, dear little girl in boyland. Once you pass its borders, you can never return again. How true that is. I'm going to do you this evening read you a little bit of poetry to go with some of these carols here. I wrote this one. I got some classic poems, but this one I wrote. I still have to read it. When's this last time? I don't think of this for 11 months, and this appeared on as liner notes to a CD I put out, a Christmas CD I put out in 1999. It seemed like the time to get it done. 1999. The poem's called My Christmas, and the album was and is called How Like the Holly. When nights are longest and days are coldest, comes the time for telling stories. The time for fire against the chill, light against the dark, bread against the hunger. We huddle close and swab our fears with our finest and oldest comforts, denying the storms of brutal nature, we make for ourselves a place where it is safe to dream, where it is safe to be a child, or to become a child again in dreams. This is a place where bold myth and subtle mystery transpose, where faith is born of legend, where wide-eyed hungers feast on ancient certainties. A place with noble tales spinning and weaving through the decades, like stout cords holding us fast to the bosom of humanity. This is the place we rebuild each December. This is the place I call my Christmas. How like the holly in deep winter time, how like the star in the dark night shine, how like a path on the snow-driven plain, how like the candle, how like the flame, how like the winter that promises spring, how like the carol we sing. How like the frost on the evergreen tree, how like the deer running wild, running free, how like Orion rising so bold, how like the story bound to be told, how like the winter that promises spring, how like the carol we sing. How like the holly in deep winter time, how like the star in the dark night shine, how like the candle path in a snow-driven plain, how like the candle, how like the flame, how like the winter that promises spring, how like the carol we sing. Oh, the holly and the ivy, when they are both full grown, of all the trees in the greenwood, the holly wears the crown. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was born to us in a stable rude. The friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I, said the ass with the homely face, I brought his parents to this place. I bore the load, I kept the pace. I, said the ass with a homely face. I, said the ox who went unfed, I gave my manger for his bed. I gave my hay to rest his head. I said the ox who went unfed. I said the lamb all cut and shorn. I gave my wool to keep him warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I said the lamb all cut and shorn. I said the dog so brave and true. I guarded him the whole night through, as if he were my own pup too. I said the dog so brave and true. I said the cat with the soft gray fur. I made him smile with my purr. I made them smile, both him and her. I said the cat with the soft gray fur, and I said the dove in the tree nearby. I cooed and cooed so he would not cry. We cooed and cooed, my mate and I said the dove in the tree nearby. And so each beast of Christmas Day did give in his or her own way. No less a gift would he repay each friendly beast of Christmas Day. That's a very old song, an old carol. I've changed the melody a bit and added some words. We talked about that with Chris a while ago. You take an old folk song and you make it, it's still the friendly beasts, you know. It's just like reminds me of the story of Grandpa's old axe. It's over 100 years old, Grandpa's old axe. Now, we've had to change the handle several times, and the blade has been changed 3 or 4 times. But it's still Grandpa's old axe. Now, the animals speaking at the 12 o'clock on Christmas Eve is an old story I've heard all my life. No one really believes that, do they? That the barnyard animals can speak on Christmas, but it goes way back. They kneel and pray in some traditions. And this is a poem written in 1915, the first year into World War I, by Thomas Hardy, who had written novels all his life. About this time he gave up writing novels. He was a fiddler. He fiddled for the local contra dances and collected tunes and wrote poems like this one. Christmas Eve and 12 of the clock. Now they are all on their knees, an elder said, as we sat in a flock by the embers in hearthside ease. We pictured the meek, mild creatures where they dwelt in their strawy pen. Nor did it occur to one of us there to doubt they were kneeling then. So fair a fancy, few believe in these years. Yet I feel, if someone said on Christmas Eve, come, see the oxen kneel in the lonely barton by yonder coombe our childhood used to know, I should go with him in the gloom, hoping it might be so. That's called The Oxen by Thomas Hardy. woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. That's one I put together a couple of years ago. Now, I didn't write it. The words, some of you old English majors might remember, the words are by Robert Frost, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. And some of you pious folks might recognize that tune. It's the doxology, called by some, or a lot of different titles. That was written 500 years ago by a man named Bourgeois, Louis Bourgeois. And Frost wrote the words 100 years ago. So they never met each other. They didn't know that they fit hand in glove. But I recognized it and put the hymn tune and the hymn language together. I have another guitar here. This is my Kalamazoo guitar, as you can see. This was made in the 1930s, and this song was made in the 1930s too. As I wander out under the sky, how Jesus, the Savior, did come here to die for poor ornery people like you and like I. Oh, I wonder as I wander out under the sky. Now Mary birthed Jesus, it was in a cow stall, with wise men and farmers and shepherds and all. When high in God's heaven a star's light did fall, and the promise of the ages then did recall. Now if Jesus had wanted for any wee thing, like a star in the sky or a bird on the wing, or for all of God's angels to gather and sing, why then he surely would have had it, for he was the king. So I wonder, as I wander out under the sky, how Jesus, the Savior, came down here to die for poor, ornery people like you and like I. I wonder as I wander out under the sky. When Joseph was an old man was he courted the Virgin Mary, the Queen of Galilee. He courted Virgin Mary, the Queen of Galilee. Now Joseph and Mary went walking one day. They spied some pretty cherry trees growing by the way. They spied some pretty cherry trees growing by the way. Then Mary said to Joseph, so meek and so mild, Joseph, gather me some cherries, for I am with child. Gather me cherries, for I am with child. Well, then Joseph grew angry. So angry he grew. Just let the father of that baby gather cherries for you. Let the father of that baby gather cherries for you. Then the little baby Jesus spoke out from the womb. He said, bow down, you big cherry trees, give my mama some. Bow down, you big cherry trees, give my mama some. Then the cherry trees all bowed down, right down to the ground. And Mary gathered cherries while old Joseph stood around. Mary gathered cherries while Joseph stood around. Well, then Joseph took Mary down on his right knee. He said, little baby Jesus, when will your birthday be? Little baby Jesus, when will your birthday be? On the 25th of December, darkest day of the year, when the stars and the poplars all tremble with fear. When the stars and the poplars all tremble with fear. Then Joseph, he fell down on his knees. He said, Lord God in heaven, have mercy on me. Lord God in heaven, have mercy on me. That's the Cherry Tree Carol. Cherry Tree Carol. Now that's an old song. That goes back to the Middle Ages. They say that evolved from a passion play done by traveling actors, I guess you call it, a troupe, who would put on plays and sing songs. And you know that wander as I wander out under the sky. I got to tell you that story a little bit here. That was written by John Jacob Niles, who was a song collector. He was a Kentuckian. He was in North Carolina collecting songs. So that's what he liked to do back in 1933 or 34, the height of the Depression. And there was a traveling preacher going around and trying to raise up a little audience there to hear his sermon. And the preacher had his family with him. And he took his little girl and set her up on the hood of the car he was traveling in and had her sing that song, part of it anyway. And Niles described her as a pretty blonde child, very dirtily dressed and with long stringy hair. And what she sang was that first verse. I wandered as I wandered out under the sky. Just the first verse. But she sang it, and that melody that John Jacob Niles had never heard before. And he'd been collecting songs his whole life. And he thought so much of it, he paid the little girl a quarter. This is the Depression. He paid her a quarter so she'd sing it again and he could learn it. And then he did it again. And he spent $1.75 that day to hear that song 7 times till it was burnt into his brain. He took it home, wrote it down, and played it on his dulcimer and figured what the chords might be. And a year later, he decided to write 2 more verses to it. And that's how we got I Wonder as I Wander. Now, terribly different than some medieval bunch of guys trying to raise a crowd telling stories that you will not find in the Bible. That Cherry Tree Carol is not in any of the Gospels. But it's a legend, and this is the time for telling stories. Got a couple more songs for you here. For a lot of us, it's about snow. You know, Christmas and snow go together. And these great snow songs can have a shelf life of maybe 10 weeks around here. There's snow all the time, but it's a shame to waste them all on Christmas. Here's one I wrote. Deep down in Dixie, where magnolias bloom, Old Man Winter don't get much room. Down in Florida or in Georgia, every other year or so, they get a little white stuff. They got the nerve to call that snow. 'Cause I live here in Michigan, so I ought to know. Believe me when I tell you, friends, there's 5 kinds of snow. Yeah, there's 5 kinds of snow. I'm here to tell you 5 kinds of snow. Don't let them sell you, folks in the Northland or folks in the know. Believe me when I tell you there's 5 kinds of snow. 5 kinds. The first kind of snow. Snow number 1. I remember this. It's only been 11 months. Snow number 1 is a lot of fun. Flakes as big as nickels shining in the sun. The people throwing snowballs and sledding down the street, singing White Christmas is sure is sweet. But there's only 1 kind of snow. There's 4 more to go. Snow number 2 is a nasty little number. Those icy little pellets can really be a bummer. They'll sting you, slap you, knock you off your feet. You chip it off your windshield, you're gonna swear it's concrete. And that's two kinds of snow. We got three more. Now the third kind of snow is a serious blow. It'll shut down your town, it'll lock your door, turn off your power, shut off your phone. 9 months later, little Junior is born. And that's three kinds of snow. Two more to go. Snow number 4 is nothing but a bore. You wake up in the morning to 4 inches more. You should be in dreamland getting your rest, but you're shoveling the driveway, clutching your chest. And that's 4 kinds of snow. One more. The last kind of snow is those crusty little piles. The crusty little piles for miles and miles. They're black and ugly, look like rocks from the moon. Look under your bushes, you're gonna see them next June. And that's 5 kinds of snow. That's all there is now, 5 kinds of snow. So bundle up the baby when the cold winds blow. Wake me when it's over, there's 5 kinds of snow. The 5 kinds of snow. Well, let me do one more kind of song for you here before we have our pie break. This is new to me. A pie break. That's all concerts should have. I bet you know this if you're listening here. The beauty of this kind of thing, whether it's a Zoom or this kind of thing on a YouTube, I can't hear the sing-alongs, but you can sing along with me. And it's just going to be me and you, you know. So who cares if we don't jibe up with everybody else in the time lag of the internet. You know this song. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening, a beautiful sight. We're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is a bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. Well, sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow we can build a snowman and pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man, but you can do the job while you're in town. Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire, to face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in the winter wonderland. A circus clown. We'll have lots of fun with Mr. Snowman until the other kitties knock him down. Oh, the snow is so thrilling, but the nose gets a chillin'. So let's cuddle and play the Eskimo way, walking in a winter wonderland. Everybody now, sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? In the lane, the snow is glistening, a beautiful sight. We're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. He sings a love song when we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow we can build a man, he's a parson, and pretend that he is Parson Brown. We'll say, are you married? You'll say, no, man, but you can do the job while you're in town. Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire to face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland, walking in a winter wonderland, walking in a winter wonderland.
Woohoo! Joel Mabus, ladies and gentlemen.
So I can hear you.
Ah, yes, indeed. Well, boy, that was wonderful, and I know I was singing along with you. Although that high note at the end was a bit. I was trying to go on top of you. It's a good thing we weren't actually live.
It's a good thing sometimes to
Yes,
be
indeed.
singing together alone. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's you stay connected whether you actually can hear the other person or not, and you are convinced that you sound great.
Just like singing in the shower, right?
Yes, indeed. All right. So now someone asked about what kind of pie we'd be celebrating with tonight, and tonight we're breaking the tradition and going with Christmas cookies. Now I'm not going to pick up my plate and show them to you because they are crumbly on the top, and they'll fall off, and I'll make a big mess on the computer. But these are raspberry bars that go all the way back to my youth. My mom used to make these cookies, and they were my absolute favorite Christmas cookie of all. And that's kind of the holidays are so tied to tradition and family and food that it just seemed like the perfect trick. So,
Well,
Joel, what have you got?
You clued me in on this early, so I went to the Harding's grocery store and got the smallest package of Christmas cookies I could find.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of a little thumbprint of jam in the middle here, but it's
Okay.
not homemade, but
That's okay.
It is what it is that I can join in the party here.
Absolutely. I've actually been known to get popovers when my wife wasn't on to bake the pie. So you do with what we have to.
Well, I was going to get I was thinking of getting what they call around here one of those filling station pies, where those little things that are just wrapped up fruit kind of stuff. And I saw one of those in the store the other day, and it said apple pie with real fruit.
Ooh.
And it occurred to me, like, now, what lawyer told them they could say that? It seems like if it was apple pie, you could say with real apples. But
So you got to wonder what other kind of fruits in
You
there.
can only call it fruit, really, and it's real. It's not imaginary. So.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I remember that the Ritz Crackers box always had mock apple pie.
Mock apple pie.
And it was Ritz Crackers soaked in apple juice or something like that.
In lemon juice, I think, with a lot of sugar.
That makes sense.
I read that many times when I was a kid, but my mom never made it. Well, thankfully.
Yeah, mine neither. I'm happy to say. Hey, Ann Hills from Peoria asked about Hopelessly Midwestern. Now, that's a song of yours that I actually recorded and have covered countless times, of course. But I think she was curious about that. Maybe you have a backstory on how you came to write that you could share?
Well, I guess I do. I was, when you write a song, sometimes it kind of percolates and you don't even know what you're doing. You're thinking about things, and I had been told, this is some years ago, I had been told by someone who booked a very high-profile folk festival out in Massachusetts that I had wanted to play at, and I had sent them my stuff and my promo, and samples of my work, and I finally got her to answer me, and she said, "I don't know, you're sort of a little too Midwestern. You're just a little too Midwestern for my audience." I said, Really, I've been playing Boston for years, man.
Yeah.
I know how to approach a crowd, and but no, I was too Midwestern. Well, and then shortly after that, I was playing at a festival in Ontario. It's in Owen Sound, which is the town of, I forget what they actually call it, Summerfest or Summertime Fest or something, but we always call it Owen Sound. Lovely festival with lots of people, lots of Canadians, lots of Americans. And Christine Lavin was there. And she, at the time, had recorded her Sensitive New Age Guy song, which is a song about all the men that she meets who don't do the bad things that masculine men do because they're sensitive New Age guys. And she invited me and about 5 other big hulking guys to come on stage and be her chorus of sensitive New Age guys.
I love it.
And I don't remember the song, but it says, "Who likes to open the door before you walk in? Sensitive New Age guys." And this list of things that are about likes, and then the chorus would say, "Sensitive New Age guys." I said, that's a clever way to write a song. That's what I said to myself, is that you have a string of ideas or things, objects, and then you stitch them all together with that little sensitive New Age guys. And it occurred to me driving home, hey, I'm hopelessly Midwestern. and I made a string of things. My notebook was full of all the things that you could say were hopelessly Midwestern. I was looking for, things that had rhyme to them and things that might be clever enough to survive past just the first hearing. You'd say, I don't want to hear that again. That's the mark of a good song. That somebody can say, nice song, I don't need to hear it again. That's not what works. So that was how I got the notion to write the song, and then it took a little bit of time and work to write things out. And of course the lyrics have changed over the years because some of the original lyrics just seem a little 1990, But so I've gone through a lot of different lyrics, and I will be coerced into singing that sometimes on my shows, but life goes on, and I have about 100 more songs that I would like to be heard. So sometimes that happens with a song that resonates with people.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you get requests for it over and over again.
I get requests for it outside the Midwest too, especially. A lot of people who have relatives in the Midwest they'd like to laugh at, or they used to live in the Midwest and they miss it. So.
That song got me a gig at Western Illinois University years ago because the man who ran their Performing Arts Society just loved it. So I was, I was asked to come in and perform, but I had to do Hopelessly Midwestern. They almost asked me to perform that song at his funeral, but I convinced them that was a bit of a stretch and maybe we should go with something a little bit more traditional,
Not the actual funeral anyway. No, I was maybe a party a month later.
Yeah. Now, another one of the songs of yours that is one of my personal favorites, and I've played it many times, is The Preacher and the Flood. And as a matter of fact, it's a song that I have kind of performed through COVID as sort of a working plan of, okay, here's how we step forward. We work together. The Lord helps those that help one another. And that's just such a classic concept.
Well, now, I had friends write to me, and they had sent a clipping along of a congregation of true believers out west who believed that the vaccine was evil, and if they just needed to pray. So they all got together in one small room, and they prayed real hard. And the next day, half of them were sick with COVID. And the preacher was quoted in the article saying, I don't know what happened. We prayed really hard. And he says, does this remind you of a song? Lord, why didn't you save me? I sent you two boats and a helicopter. What do you need?
What more could I do?
What more can you need? So Yeah, that song was an old joke that I had heard forever, and I always thought, that would make a good song. It's got the structure of a good song. Three things happen, then this happens. That I looked around, no one had ever done it. I can write a song, so that's what I did back in the early '90s, somewhere like that.
Yeah. Well, I first became aware of you as a songwriter. And then I began to understand that you had a much deeper, breadth of knowledge about the music, and, your performance style covered all different kinds of things: swing, traditional, original stuff, finger style, flat picked.
I like to be a moving target.
Well, you and I are the WG squared, the dreaded white guys with guitars, and I've always tried to have a similar philosophy. And I'll be, straightforward with you and tell you I have watched your career and tried to emulate many of the moves you made as a self-managed, self-represented independent artist. That's a difficult thing to do, and you have always done that well.
Thank you for that. We all have our mentors, whether they're true mentors or just inspirations. Mm-hmm. And one of mine, in terms of my career, just passed away, is Bill Staines. And, he was
what a wonderful man.
Good friend of mine. I mean, I didn't hang out at his house. He lived in New Hampshire, and I live here. But we met on the road so many times, and I opened for him at Passim in Harvard Square more than once, a couple of three times, and he would go 4 nights there and do 2 shows a day. And I saw a lot of him, and he saw a lot of me, and he'd always take me out for a beer after every show. He'd say, "Let's go get a beer and talk about the world," And I remember one of those times I had done 2 LPs for Flying Fish Records out of Chicago.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're no longer around, but they, it was my sort of calling card to get to a lot of places. And I had another album of original stuff that I wanted them to do, and Bruce, who ran the place, passed on it. He said, "Nah, singer-songwriters are a thing of the past. Nobody wants to be singers." This is in the early '80s.
I remember that.
Didn't see that truck coming at him. The singer-songwriters coming up. And I went to Rounder Records with it, and they said, "Well, we kind of like it, but if Flying Fish didn't want it, we don't want to touch it, because Bruce used to be one of the Rounders, and we don't like to mess with his people." And I was telling that to Bill Staines, and he said, "That's why you need to start your own record label. Even if you're on other records, have that own record label in your back pocket. And you got an album, you want to put it out, just do it yourself." Yeah. And that encouraged me to sit down with a yellow paper and page, and what do they do for me? What can I do for myself? And put that out on my own. It was an album called Fortunes. And came out as an LP back in '87, and it did well for me. And it was all mine. I wasn't buying them for $3 and selling them for $5 like I did with Flying Fish. But thank you, Bill Staines, and what a songwriter he is too.
Absolutely.
Humming his songs a lot these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I met Bill out of Kerrville, Texas, at the Kerrville Folk Festival when I went out for a new song competition, and he was just beginning. This would have been mid '80s, maybe later '80s, and was starting to tour nationally more than he had been kind of New England based for a long time, and so I worked with I think Bill Rinson. I managed, and it might have been Prairie Grapevine, to sponsor a concert for him in Springfield. And what a wonderful guy. And then I think we also got him back when I did the Rural Route 3 radio show. He came in for that. But such a talented songwriter, such a humble and personable guy. What a treasure to the music community he was.
Very generous and one of a kind. He played his regular strung guitar upside down and backwards.
Yeah. Do I remember he always played in open tuning too?
No, he played in regular tuning, at least most of the time. He was a standard tuning kind of guy. He just figured out how to do it. that way,
Yeah.
and nobody else could steal his chords because it all looked
Yeah, because
yeah, and, he did actually travel nationally before you met him, because he was
Okay.
one of these guys in his car with a bunch of records in the trunk. He
Oh,
used
yeah.
to come through East Lansing in the 70s on his way to
geez.
Alaska, on his way to driving to
Yeah.
Alaska. And he just started playing anywhere where they'd have him. And
Okay.
and that just sort of expanded as a thin film across America to being this thick blanket across America.
Yeah.
All these people that knew Bill and loved him and wanted him back every year.
Oh, yeah.
They loved him so much. They wanted him back
Well,
every year. And he did all the booking himself. And just
Yeah.
call him up and he'll tell you when he can come.
Yep. I think
What a
this
man.
would have been right about the time when Roseville Fair was covered by Nancy Griffith, because
Oh,
that
yeah.
was my intro to Bill, and he was there.
That was a big boost for him, especially places
Yeah.
like Kerrville. Yeah.
Yeah,
His
absolutely.
introduction, Yeah. Great
Yeah.
song. too.
Hey, we've got a couple of comments I just want to share with you here. Dorothy Engelman mentions that she was at the Summer Folk in Owen Sound that Joel referred to.
Yeah.
And Fox Valley jumped in and mentioned that it was Summer Folk. I'm assuming that was the correct name of the event. And we've got a very nice message here from Diane Grettenberger.
Oh, Diane.
And a little earlier tonight, in the beginning, I saw a message from, let's see if I can, Janet. There it is. There we go. Janet
Wisniewski
Wisniewski from Brussels.
from Brussels.
That's cool.
Hi, Janet.
I gotta say, that is so cool. Hey, I wanted to ask you about that Kalamazoo guitar. Now, I'm an old guitar nut myself, and I'm thinking you were playing in D minor. Would I be right about
Yeah.
that? Okay, I pulled out one of his.
There's the people. What tuning is that? And this happens to be Dad Fad, DADFAD, Dad Fad. I love that name. I often use this. That F to F sharp for open D tuning, which is a great position for slide guitar, which I like to do on a different instrument sometimes.
Yeah.
Wander as I wander. I have played it a slide, but on this particular guitar, that slide wants to rattle. On the,
Oh, sure.
You know how it works.
I always
It is,
jack my action up about a
Yeah, well,
16th of an
this-
inch at the saddle.
This has a naturally high action, but my other
Yeah.
guitar has a bowed neck, and it's good for nothing but slide. And I have a pickup on
Yeah.
it and run it through an amp, so it sounds like $1,000,000. But that doesn't work in my little cave and the little
Yeah.
little box with a little microphone up there.
Yeah. Life is
So
a little
kept-
different when.
Kept
Than it
a
was.
little different than the usual show. But
Yeah.
In
Hey,
terms
I'm
of-
really glad. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay.
Just wanted to say I was really glad you did I Wander as I Wander. Wander as I Wonder. Isn't that it?
I wonder as I
Wander.
wander. O is a. Wonder is a wander.
Ooh, I've been singing it wrong all these years.
Well, if you speak like I do, it hardly makes a difference. Wander as a wander.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking you're walking first and then you're thinking, and it's the other way
Could
around.
work either way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing both
But that
activities.
is- It's just such a gorgeous melody. I had no idea about the backstory. That was one of the things I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
But
Little girl, and where she got it, he even names her in his unpublished biography, as I read on some Wikipedia page or something. He has her name, so she may have lived to be a grand old lady. She could still be alive.
Wow.
But we don't know that, and a lot of people have arranged that for choirs and stuff, assuming it was a traditional song. And Niles said, not quite. There's traditional elements, but those next two verses that kind of get into the mystery of the Bible and stuff, of Jesus and what he wanted, wee things, was his, entirely his. And he did sort of take that a cappella single voice song and turn it into a melody that has chord turns to it. So I know that process. That I know how that works, and I don't begrudge him getting his royalties.
Oh no!
While he was still alive, and it probably goes to his estate yet.
Oh my God, my friend Karen Stein is joining us from Costa Rica. Hey, Karin. How wonderful. Hey, I hope your sister is doing better. And love from here to you and everyone down there. I Wander as I Wander. Again, a gorgeous melody. You've inspired me to go back and pull out my old tablature. I had arranged it years ago for fingerstyle guitar, and I think it might have been a drop D tuning. But I just know there was some beautiful droning thing happen. And you emulated that concept so beautifully with the wraparound. Yes, exactly.
Well, the old Richie Havens trick, Richie Havens played guitar tuned open, and he had these enormously long thumbs, and he'd cover all of them, but sometimes he'd cover just some of them. And if you go to the 5th fret, you get this really...
Yeah. Oh, that's just beautiful.
I believe the chord would be a minor add 9. And at the 5th fret, it's less spooky, but it gets the melody note that you need in there. And then, of course, you have that nice chime that you can add wherever. So it's a simple song. It's just that it's in a very mountain minor.
It's such a unique melody for the Christmas tradition. I mean, that was the thing.
Well, when you listen to the words, you say, "Oh, well, is this an Easter song? And a Christmas song?" And it really, it happens. Christmas has a way of taking songs and making it a Christmas song. When I was a kid, who would have thought "Raindrops on Roses and Whiskers on Kittens" was going to be a Christmas song?
Yeah. Well, and I think you were talking about Jingle Bells. Wasn't that originally a Thanksgiving song?
It was written for Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah, and now it is the Christmas song, like you said.
Oh, yeah. It was written by James Lord Pierpont, who was the black sheep in his family. He came from the Pierponts were all high church Unitarian preachers in around Boston and parts of New England. And James Lord, it kind of went out west, tried to make it as a 49er getting gold, and it didn't work. Came back, and he always had a knack for music. And he went south to South Carolina with his older brother, who was a preacher. And this preacher was going to preach to the people of South Carolina to give up their sin of slavery. And strict abolitionists all in the family. And James was the organ player in the church. Well, James had been recently widowed, and his kids were still living up in New England. And he fell in love with a young lass in South Carolina who came from a wealthy slave-owning family. And came the beginning of the Civil War, and South Carolina fired on Fort Sumter. His brother, the preacher, hightailed it out of there because things were going to get tough for an abolitionist in South Carolina during the Civil War. But James stayed, and he joined the Confederate Army. And he was their official songwriter and wrote a lot of wonderful pro-slavery, pro-Confederacy songs. And his calling card was always, "I'm the guy that wrote Jingle Bells. I can write anything." And so he stayed in South Carolina and to the end, till he buried down there, I'm pretty sure, and never went back up to New England, where his name was Mud in the family. And now the flip side of this, these stories, I always look for who wrote it.
Oh, yeah.
The old song, "Up on the housetop, reindeer paws, here comes dear old Santa Claus."
B.R. Hamby.
Yeah, was also a minister, and he was an abolitionist minister. And he was in the Midwest, I think Ohio. And he wrote a lot of serious songs. "Darling Nellie Gray, They Have Taken You Away." It's about a
hardcore abolitionist song
who has been sold downriver. And he took a break from all that to write that little Christmas song about Santa Claus. Again, it's not about the Jesus, Mary, Joseph stuff. It's just about Santa Claus. And And I always thought when I was a kid that was a 20th century thing. It was like, right up there with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff. But those two warring pro-abolition, anti-abolitionist preachers or preacher families, all about the same time. 1850s for Jingle Bells, 1863 for Up on the Housetop. It's a yin-yang kind of
it
thing.
is.
But I just had to mention that because you brought up the JB.
I had heard about that from the other end of the spectrum, learning the Civil War music and Darla Nellie Gray,
right.
and then later finding out that he had also written.
Too. Yeah.
My wife didn't believe me when I told her. We had to look it up. But much like what you were saying, I always thought it was a 20th century song. It just felt that way. Who knew?
Gene Autry sang it. Well, what can you say?
Yeah. Well, what did he write? Rudolph? Didn't we?
No.
Gene Autry wrote
He sang it. Gene Autry sang Rudolph. He didn't write it. He did write, Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane. That was one of his, apparently. He took credit for it anyway. He might have had a companion cowpoke help him with the I don't know.
Hey, I want to touch on one thing before I ask you to wind up with another song. And you and I have talked about this before, but to me this is just still one of the most fascinating things. I've mentioned many times that you are from folk music royalty. Your parents were members of the WLS Barn Dance traveling show. And
my mom always said they worked for Prairie Farmer. That's the way she always put it.
Okay.
They worked for Prairie Farmer because Prairie Farmer, the magazine or newspaper, owned WLS at the time. So WLS owned the barn dance up there. And, So she saw it, the paychecks that they got were from Prairie Farmer. So she always called it the Prairie Farmer Days. But what they did in order to sell subscriptions to this publication would travel around their territory, and their particular territory was Southern Illinois, downstate Illinois. They'd go from county to county, town to town, whatever. They'd set up in an area, and everybody in the troupe would go out and knock on doors. And you heard of the barn dance? Well, I'm from Prairie Farmer, and you heard of that? Oh yeah, we'd like to have you subscribe, become part of the family, so to speak. And they would talk them into buying a subscription. And she said often this was in the late 30s, very early 40s before they quit it. People were poor, very poor. And she said, I want to sign up, but I don't have that much money. And then they'd say, well, what do you have? And she said, often they'd pay in eggs or bacon or whatever they had, and they kind of gave them a pro rate on how many eggs would be worth a subscription. Or throw in a couple of potatoes, and I think we can do it. And then that's what they'd eat off of, and if they made a little more money down the road, they'd send the portion to the home office, and they kept their portion of the take. But some of the take was often food. That was. I have a little souvenir of those days.
Oh,
this wasn't Prairie Farmer stuff, but I had this on my shelf, and I thought, I could just take that down on the shelf. This was the souvenir program. Get this on.
Hey, Brandon, pull that main screen, would you please?
Al Rauer, president of the National Hillbilly Association, presents this particular contest, Midwest Championship String Bands, Fiddlers, Yodelers, Banjo, and Accordion Contests. And in 1938, and my dad and his brothers were in this. They were in the competition number 1, the string bands, number 8, the Mabus brothers from Muscuda, Illinois, and my dad was in the fiddle contest. They had event number 7, always cracked me up, specialty acts. Martin Varvel played the electric guitar.
Ooh.
That's
What
a
year is
specialty. 1938.
Wow.
It's early for electric guitars, and they had harmony fiddles, child cowgirl. Anyway, the back page of this, when I was in college, I used to have this up on my bulletin board. I love this. Hillbilly contest. Prizes up to $1,000 for the coming Hillbilly contest to be held in Springfield, Illinois. Fine print is the largest contest of its kind ever to be held. And nowhere on this page does it mention music. It always occurred to me when I was a kid. It's just the contest to see who's the biggest old hillbilly.
Yeah.
And that they, Jed Clampett coming in.
Yep.
But great souvenir. John Hartford. I told John Hartford about this because he was into the local fiddlers around the St. Louis.
Oh, he was.
This was held in East St. Louis. This particular contest.
Yeah.
And I copied it for him so he could talk. He had that string list of fiddle players because he knew some of them. And, and he wanted to track. He was always into tracking down the fiddle players.
Yeah.
From that part of the world. But yeah, I still have it.
Huh. I actually lived in Muscuda for
sometime.
Oh yeah. I lived in Muscuda for about 6 months while I was an archaeologist in my misspent youth. Working on what became the bypass, the 255 bypass around Cahokia.
My grandmother Mabus lived on Main Street in Muscuda when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
I spent many Christmas mornings at her place. She was really poor and old, and we'd have Christmas Eve with another relative, and we'd get our toys then. But Christmas Day, my grandmother Mabus would give us socks, and they were thin Argyle socks that you see now in dollar stores, real thin things that he said, thanks, Grandma. Everybody got socks. But, she did what she could, and she always fed us great pie. She was the best pie maker I've ever known.
Clearly a woman of class and distinction. Well, Joel, this has just been a wonderful evening. I just have enjoyed getting to visit with you and hear the music. I'm going to do a quick bit of housekeeping before we turn you loose with one last song.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll wind up with that. First of all, I mentioned at the beginning of the show we're going to take a small hiatus here for a while and try to reimagine this series. We've done it as a live stream since COVID hit, and actually with guests since about a year ago in September. And we've progressively been losing money. And through some generous donors last month, we've got enough right now where I can do a few specialized shows, but still keep a reserve so that we can go live again when our facility opens up again. So we're going to be a little erratic on our schedule. I would love to hear from folks about ways we can make this more interesting for you and build a bigger audience. One of those might be getting off Saturday night, for instance. And at any rate, please let us know about that. In the meantime, you can support us through these donation links or by sending us a check at the address listed there on your screen. Now, I also want to take a moment to thank all of you folks that have been with us this last year. We had wonderful performers of all kinds. Ended with Joel's a huge treat. A big thanks to Brandon O'Sullivan, our technical producer here, who keeps all the bells and whistles going and the lights on. So we really appreciate all that help, and a special thanks to the Two Rivers Arts Council, which funded us through last year. If we're able to get funding through them again, that will certainly be a big help in the future. So let's head back to Joel Mabus. Take us out with one more song.
Okay.
Take it away, Joel.
Thanks, Chris. I got the song just to end with here. It occurred to me a couple of days ago. Oh, this has got to be my ender. We're talking about the history of these songs. This was written in the 1930s as well. So was Winter Wonderland. So was I Wonder as I Wander. At that same time as I Wonder as I Wander was being put together, These two guys were writing a song, professional songwriters. It was the best song they ever wrote. It was words by Haven Gillespie and the tune by J. Fred Coots. Yes, that's his name, J. Fred Coots. And the story they told in later years was they wrote it on the subway, and as soon as they finished it, they took it up to have it sung on the radio. And maybe it was a little different than that, but it was a big hit. And by the time it was sung on the radio for Thanksgiving of 1934. And by the end of the year, it was being played all over the country. First record out after that was with Tommy Dorsey. And I heard that Tommy Dorsey record, and I thought, boy, it's a swinging tune. I just got back from a lovely trip along the Milky Way. Pulled into the North Pole to pass the time of day. I called on dear old Santa Claus to see what I could see. He took me to his workshop and he showed his plan to me. Oh, you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. Oh, he sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, he knows when you've been bad or good, so be good. For goodness sake, oh, you better watch out, you better not, I'm telling you, Santa Claus is coming to get you. Now, Santa is a busy man, he's got no time to play. He's got millions of stockings to fill on Christmas Day. So you better write your letter and send it right away, because he's getting ready his reindeer and his sleigh. The little tin horns, little toy drums, Rudy Toot Toot and Rummy Tum Tum. Santa Claus, he's coming to town. Curly head dolls, a cuddle hen coo. Look out, boys, they're flirting with you. Santa Claus is coming to town. All the kids and girls in Boyland will have a jubilee. You build a brand new Toyland all around the Christmas tree. Well, you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming. Santa Claus is coming. Santa Claus is coming to town. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Oh, that was wonderful, Joel. And I've never heard those verses before. That's an incredible thing. All right. Thank you so much, folks. We want to wish everyone a safe, healthy, happy Christmas. May your holiday, however you choose to celebrate it, be filled with joy, family, love, and good food. Joel, have a wonderful holiday. I hope to cross paths with you real soon.
Hope to see you soon in real time.
You bet. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.